Good evening for all of us in India. Good morning, good afternoon, whichever part of the world you are in. And very, very, very warm welcome greetings. We've only just gotten past Buddha Purnima, which was the birth and death anniversary of the Lord Buddha. And so it is a particular blessing for us to assemble here from different parts of the world to listen to a great spiritual teacher in Geshe Lhakdor. And our gratitude is sort of twice over, because I approached him at very short notice. I just approached him 2 weeks ago, and at very short notice, he has most generously agreed to give us these very valuable, not just teachings, but insights and wisdom and some practices in response to our appeal to him that in these terrible times of COVID, where people have been struggling with their minds, with their relationships, with their health, and with their faith and confidence in the future, that the Buddha's teachings and through a wonderful teacher like Geshe Lhakdor have enormous value to us, which is immeasurable. And I think virtually everybody here knows Geshe Lhakdor, but there are a few people who have not been a part of these teachings and his discourses in the past. And the briefest of brief introduction, which is extremely difficult because I should be really here speaking for an hour to introduce all the many dimensions and facets and work and writings and of Geshe Lhakdor. But the formal position he holds today is as the director of the Tibetan Library of Works and Archives in Dharamsala. And he has worked very closely as with His Holiness as an interpreter, as a translator, as an editor of his books. And he is a distinguished scholar and has lectured at more places than we could count or recount. But most importantly, and I say this as a struggling sadhaka aspirant myself, that the great value that Geshe Lhakdor has brought to lives such as mine is that you can read the scriptures, you engage in them, you try and make sense of them, and sometimes they may have some resonances intellectually. But Geshe has been unique and special in his ability to relate them to our everyday lives and predicaments, even as we struggle with samsara. So Geshe, on behalf of the entire Sangha assembled here, very, very, very deep gratitude for the blessing that you give us by your presence. I should also just acknowledge my colleagues Norzin Jamyang and Natasha, the pillars for making this possible, particularly for the Sangha and the community in Russia. And also that we already have about 160 people online, and there is a large number of people on Facebook who are also tracking this, and several hundreds of them. And so welcome those of you who are on Facebook, and we urge all of you to register, because it brings many advantages, including excellent summaries of the teachings each week that Norzin sends out to help build the gaps in case you miss a meeting, and and other updates. So again, for those of you who are unfamiliar with these teachings, they will be followed by what many of us find equally valuable is the interaction and questions that we are able to pose to Geshe. So Geshe, it's over to you with deep gratitude and prostrations, because it's physically not possible to do that, and that is our tradition, to offer prostrations to the master and to the teacher. So you have to unmute, Lhakdor.
Thank you, Rajiv ji, the foundation members Norzin Jamyang, and the Russian group, Natasha, Julia, and everybody who is attending these talks online. I don't know how much benefit you will get by listening to me, but I'm doing this for selfish reasons because I get an opportunity to read the text that I'm to teach, and I have to do a lot of, rehearsal, to come on the stage. It's not easy. I cannot just say whatever comes in my mind. So I need to read. So I read almost like five commentaries on this text. So thank you for everybody for encouraging me to do this. There's number one reason. The second is, there is a Tibetan saying which says that the outcome of a very intelligent person, a single very intelligent person, and the outcome of three mediocre people, the discussion that happens between 3 or 4 mediocre people, then the outcome of those mediocre people is better than the result of thinking of just one intelligent person. So during these talks and teachings, we are entering into a form of dialogue and discussion, listening and sharing and asking questions. So that is, I think, mutually enriching for me as somebody who is talking, and also to all the listeners. And this kind of talks and teachings, whether we call it a Buddhist teaching or otherwise, is important because life is short. As Shantideva says, that life is short, there are too many things to do. So we cannot afford to waste our time trying to do so many things that is there to do in the world. And it is not necessary to do everything. The more and more I become older, the more and more I realize the importance of the uselessness of running after so many distractions. So this is something that I want to tell you. The elders will know this very well based on their life experience. But sometimes even with elders, the problem is we know, but we are not able to curtail those distractions. So it is time to really do proper selection and not to waste time, because there's so many areas called education or information where you can waste your time, waste your life. If it is for your livelihood, it is understandable, you are compelled to do. But otherwise, I think you need to really curtail down many of these distractions so that you can really focus on what is important, because there's not much time in life. And as it is repeatedly said in the Buddha's teaching, that number one, that life is precious. Number two, it is difficult to get this life again and again. So don't take it for granted that even after death, you will come back again as a human being. There's no guarantee according to Buddhist teaching. You will take a birth according to what you have done in this life and in the previous many lives. So this life is called precious life because we have this amazing human intelligence and capacity to analyze what is really good and what is really bad, what is really good for oneself and for others for the long run, and for this life and for many lives to come. So therefore, we need to make the choice. Choice is in our hand. So if we make a wrong choice and lead a life which is destructive, then we are more destructive than the ferocious animals, as we are all seeing. This pandemic is a result of our misadventure. And for example, the recent the fighting that happened in Israel, between Israel and Palestine, is also a human doing, and you have all seen how many people have suffered. So these are all rooted in human misadventure, egoism, selfishness, nothing much to do with one's own country or things like that, not so much really. So therefore but then the thing is, as ordinary individuals, we cannot change the world overnight. So sometimes we might get, feeling of hopelessness, thinking that there's not much I can do as an individual. That is wrong. That is wrong. You cannot change the whole world at one go. You cannot change even yourself at one go, but you can change. You can make a difference within yourself, and you can make a difference within the community, within the family, within the surrounding where you are living. So that is enough. So that's why I repeatedly say, think globally, act locally. Right? So therefore, we can really do kind of miracles if we choose the right path and do the right thing. Even in a day, you can do many amazing things which will bring happiness in the minds of other people and in your own mind. That is in our hand. But the problem is, as I said earlier, we are sidetracked. We are distracted for small pleasures, and then we keep on postponing the good things, the important things. And in this way, the life ebbs out. This is how we miss the bus. So it is important to really have discussions like these, talks and teachings and discussions, one's own personal self-reflection, regarding what is the meaning of human life, what is the best way to get that long-lasting happiness which we are all aspiring. So through repeated exercise, repeated effort, gradually one can come back to one's senses and take a path which will help lessen your negative emotions and enhance and strengthen the positive emotions. That is the way. That is the meaning of human life. That's the meaning of taking the essence of your life. So there we need to make some plan and make some effort. It will not happen automatically, especially given the situation and the surrounding where everybody is running after material, things, and not many focusing within oneself and trying to transform and change oneself in a positive sense. There are not many examples to follow. So therefore, unless one self makes an effort individually, it will not be able to, do the practice. We cannot, start. So therefore, the one thing that I would like to urge right in the beginning is, when it comes to doing valuable things, valuable basically means doing things which is good for you, for others, temporary, long term, and which is not destructive and harmful. I'm talking about those things. So there we need to start doing. As somebody said, stop talking, start living. Stop talking, start living. There's the meaning. We need to really practice. And as I had earlier mentioned repeatedly, that for our body, we eat 5-6 times in a day. You serve tea and lunch and dinner and in between, like many other things, but we are not giving much to the mind. So the unfortunate things, including the pandemic and many other things that we see in this world, are a result of mismanagement of the mind. It is the poverty of the sign of poverty of the mind. So the cure and the healing, individual or social or community or at the national or international level, the healing and cure has to come by changing one's perspective. We cannot change the world by external revolutions. If you read the stories of the Russian Revolution, the French Revolution, so many revolutions have taken place. And most of these revolutions are revolutions of blood. So by using force, we try to change and bring about so-called social order and things like this. We all failed, did not achieve much. We all more or less failed. And that is what China is doing today. And they will, and I can almost predict that they will fail miserably. It's only a question of time. Because anything that you do against the nature, the law of nature, you will fail. That's why we are talking in Buddhism about impermanence, interdependent origination, death, and so forth. These are law of nature. So if you 100 times you repeat every day, things are not impermanent, everything is permanent, things are not going to die, we are going to live forever. You recite this as a mantra throughout your life and go the other way, you will never be able to change that situation. and achieve the deathless state or immortality, or stop to stop the transience of things. You cannot, because you cannot go against the law of nature. You cannot. So therefore, these teachings of the Buddha are based on the law of nature. This is really, really important. You can take it not as a religion, but you can take it as a way of life, a process of transforming and changing one's mind. As I had earlier also repeatedly mentioned, that if there is a really, really, in the true sense of the term, a better way of bringing long-lasting peace and happiness other than this kind of spiritual practices, then of course, go ahead. Go for that. And to some extent, we are all going towards the direction of material development, thinking that that will bring that long-lasting peace and happiness. And we have reached a state where we are, comparing to many previous generations, we have reached a state of affluence where our forefathers could not have imagined. But are we really, really happier? Do we really have that reliable peace? Difficult, you see. So there is no other choice but to personally change one's attitude and transform one's way of life. So that's why the focus of the Buddhist teaching is that our real enemy is negative emotions. We need to fight that internal negative emotions that is there within you, not external enemy. So it is 100% sure and guaranteed that if you lessen your anger and jealousy and hatred, unfortunately, we are not able to do that much. But if we are able to genuinely and sincerely able to lessen our anger, jealousy, hatred, which pops up again and again, if we are able to lessen that, reduce that, it is 100% sure that you will be happier. 100% sure. And there are many examples of people who have hardly anything in terms of material accumulation. But we find many people who are absolutely happy. And then there are, again, ample examples of people who are rolling in wealth, but creating problems, difficulties. They themselves are not happy, on and off, divorce, fighting, corruption. So at the end of the day, neither they get that, happiness by they're clinging to the name and fame. They don't get name and fame because people are not stupid, They know what you're doing, Doesn't matter what beautiful speeches you give, but people know who you are at the core. So you need to be sincere with yourself and not to lead a life of publicity. We need to, I'm not saying we will all become perfect one day, we'll all make mistakes, but we need to at least make the determination to go towards the direction of having that discipline, integrity, compassion, love, and things like that. And that's good for oneself. We're not talking about this to just make happy, make other people happy, but it's good for yourself. And we are all saying that I want happiness. I want long-lasting happiness. That's our slogan. So if we genuinely, truly want that, then you need to make effort and cultivate the causes and conditions for getting that long-lasting peace and happiness. Just by talking, it will not come. So therefore, it is wonderful to have this kind of talks and discussions again and again. And so therefore, I always urge right in the beginning and that is the Buddhist tradition, to set up your motivation of, at least after attending these sessions, to try to reduce out of the many negative emotions we have, at least try to reduce that one negative emotion which has a predominant presence in you. If you're a very angry person, reduce the intensity of that anger. It is going to kill you. If you're a person with obsessive attachment, reduce that. If you're a drunkard, reduce that. So it is important to make a commitment for one's own goodness. But if you don't take that decisive method and commitment and listen to the teaching as if reading a newspaper and they say, oh, it is there, Nagarjuna said this, that, you share this to other person. It is good, but it will not have much impact. You will not change. And in fact, there's a Tibetan saying which says, "Margo margi turja, chungbonum gi mitu, digjin chuji tuja, chudi chuji mitu." So that means margo margi, chungbonum gi tuja, margo margi. The hide or leather, which may be very tough and rough, but it can be tanned by using oil or butter. But that leather, that oil, which has always remained in contact with the butter itself, in Tibet we have this system of, packaging that butter in a leather case. So that leather case has been in touch with that butter for so long time. It's in fact, it looks oily, but if you try to tame that leather, it will not be possible. So similarly, with this example, similar to this example, it is said that the sinners can be tamed and disciplined by teaching, by spirituality, by religious teaching. But the one who is Dharma proof, just like waterproof watch. Dharma proof means you have listened to Dharma many times, but no change at all. And you have a lot of information and you share it to other people, but you yourself don't do anything. Then that person will impossible to change that person. So that person is like a person who is drowning in the sea, but dying of not being able to drink water. Right? So that's why I always, I myself, try to do that a little bit. What I try to do is, there's so many things we can do, but at least do something, whatever it is. So minimize some of these negative emotions, minimize. Try to become a little bit more open-minded. Try to become a little bit more compassionate. Then you can test the sweetness of that practice. When we don't practice, we have no idea what will be the benefit. You see, if you don't smile, others will not smile at you. If you smile, others will smile at you. Then you get that as a human nature. We'll get that feeling of warmth and happiness and friendship. And we feel happy, I met this really nice person, he smiled, we talked about this, that, it's human nature. So for that, you need to be the first person to have that compassion and open-mindedness, right? So I really, really repeatedly say that it is important to start doing small things, whatever it is, start practice. Start practice. So these days, I have over the years collected so many garbages, including clothing and shoes and books and so many things. So these days, because we don't have to go to office, what I've started to do is now I'm scanning through all the books and found many of this complete rubbish and useless. So I'm trying to, do those away and hoping that I'll be able to focus more on really, really important teachings and books, not just reading temporary pleasure-giving book and things like that. So what I'm trying to say is, we need to start doing. So therefore, today, actually before the actual teaching starts, we have a prayer, no?
Yes, Geshe, we can do it now.
Yeah, you can do it, please. So I will explain this a little bit. What we are trying to do this time is, so in the beginning we'll do this chanting, the Pali chanting of Buddham Sharanam Gacchami, Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami, Sangham Sharanam Gacchami. You listen to this chanting; it's beautiful, and we're just taking refuge, which we'll read later on also. And then we will recite the Tara mantra, green Tara mantra, Om Taritu Taritu Reso, a few times. So these two mantras that we are chanting today, the Tara mantra in the beginning, and then at the end we are chanting the Avalokiteshvara mantra, the 6-syllable mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum. So His Holiness has recently officially circulated a letter asking people to recite these two mantras as much as possible during this pandemic. Because Mother Tara, of course, Avalokiteshvara, is embodiment of compassion, and Mother Tara is somebody who is really the manifestation of subtle energy. And when we pray that the possibilities of receiving her blessing is very quick, like the wind, energy. So His Holiness said, I think few times. In fact, his office circulated in letter, in writing, asking people to chant this as much as possible. So I thought, in addition to listening to the teaching, if we do this, it's really wonderful. And then after the teaching, you can recite this as much as possible during this pandemic or even otherwise. So you will become a habit of doing these chantings also. So that's what we are going to do. Okay. Okay, so start the chanting.
Buddham Sharanam Gacchami.
Buddham Sharanam Gacchami.
Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami.
Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami.
Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami. Sangham Sharanam Gacchami.
Sangham Sharanam Gacchami.
Sangham Sharanam Gacchami. Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami. Sangham Sharanam Gacchami.
Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami. Sangham Sharanam Gacchami. Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami. Sangham Sharanam Gacchami.
Okay, let us recite the Tara mantra. Just paying homage by saying that I pay homage to the Mother Tara, who is the liberator from all downfalls, and to whose feet all the celestial beings and non-celestial beings pay their homage. So we'll recite this. If you want to keep a count, then say 50 times. Om tare du dare dure soha, 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 om tare du dare dure soha. Om dare du dare dure soha, 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 om dare du dare dure soha. Om dare du dare dure soha, 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 om dare du dare dure soha. Om dare du dare dure soha, 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 om dare du dare dure soha. Om dare du dare dure soha, 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 om dare du dare. Om dare du dare dure soha, 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 om dare du dare dure soha. Om dare du dare dure soha, 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 om dare du dare dure soha. Om dare du dare dure soha, 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 om dare du dare dure soha. Om dare du dare dure soha, 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 om dare du dare dure soha. Om Dare Tu Dare Tu Re So, Om Dare Tu Dare Tu Re So, Ha, Gevandi, and you do the Pama Doma, do you and do what you can. Malibati Sala Gobara Sho, which means through this virtue that I've accumulated, may I actually quickly actualize the state of Mother Tara, Arya Tara, and likewise may I be able to place all other sentient beings to the state of Mother Tara. Okay, thank you. Thank you. So this time I have chosen to explain this Nagarjuna's text, a letter to a friend. Because what I found during many of my talks and teachings is that people, the listeners or people who attend the teachings should have something to, practice later on, to read something, to digest something. So unless we use a text, it becomes quite difficult for people to remember whatever has been taught, right? So, and especially this, I chose this text because this is a, the text is a versified form. So each verse, every time you finish one verse, at least you get a sense of, having achieved something, you see. So you don't get tired, It's not like just like, one big flow, never ending talk, and not being able to grasp the essence and the meaning. Sometimes people, especially the beginners, might get this kind of, feeling. But in this case, each and every verse is really like has its own impact, has its own meaning. So after finishing each and every verse, we can get a sense of achievement. And also each and every verse gives you a lot of, opportunity to reflect. And not only you can read the commentaries, at least 2-3 English commentaries are available. And so you can read those commentaries also. And for the Tibetan, people who can read Tibetan, there are so many commentaries. So you can read that also. And then not only that, you should also use your, capacity to think the meaning. You can decipher or fathom the meaning of this verse and make sure that you understood it. So that way it is very useful. So I chose this text. And then of course this text is written by Nagarjuna, who is an unquestionable, like great scholar, who is referred to as the second Buddha. And although his own actual story is difficult, there's few versions, but the actual historical authenticity and other things are questionable. But the important for us is all the texts that he has written are like superb. And especially this text, some texts are more like philosophical and focusing more on dedicated, very, very dedicated, practitioners or monks who spent many years in monastery debating out the meaning being told. So most of us, lay people, common people, we don't have that time. So we need something, ready-made, almost like ready-made food, ready to pop in, ready to eat, So these teachings are like that, and this is a teaching which has all the points of the teachings on the small individual, middling individual, great individual, but it is interspersed with so many instructions, advices that is applicable by a lay person, that can be practiced by a lay person, because he taught this teaching to the king, Gautamiputra. Okay, so who was the king to whom he taught this text is a lay person, and not only lay person but very busy man. King means really busy man, and so we are not necessarily king, but we are also like him, very busy, right? So therefore he has like taught on points which will be really, really important for us. Okay, so the first verse is encouraging to listen to the teaching. Now the English, text that I've distributed is a very old kind of translation, but it looks quite good. So because I have that soft copy, so I distributed that. So the first verse says, "O righteous and worthy one, endowed with virtues, it is befitting you hear, it is fitting you hear these few Arya verses which I have composed so that you may aspire to the merit which rises from the Sugata's words." So this is important. "O righteous one," he calls the king the righteous one, which basically means in Tibetan, Yunde Rangshi. That means, by nature you are good. Righteous means by nature you are good. So just like the king, all of you who are listening to this teaching, and I know by nature you are all good. Otherwise you will not come to this talk and teaching. So by nature you're good. And that is one thing that you should be happy, you admire, Sometimes we don't recognize our own qualities, So you should appreciate that by nature you are good, meaning that you have this inclination to do good things. So righteous one and worthy one, therefore you are worthy, therefore you are suitable to give this teaching, right? If you are somebody who has no interest at all to this kind of teaching and in fact sees this teaching as a kind of waste of time, then of course they will not come. And even if they come because their friends are going, that person will not be paying attention. So you are not a suitable, disciple, suitable vessel. So therefore, you worthy one means you are suitable, because by nature you are good. You have this inclination to do good. So therefore, you are suitable for this teaching. And because of this, you are endowed with this virtues, good things, the wish to do good things. So therefore, it is fitting you that hear this few Arya verses. Arya verses is basically, there are many forms of composing verses. So the style that he has adopted here is called Arya verses. In Hindi, it's called Arya Giti, loosely translated the noble rhyme of that, the noble song that I've composed here, which I've composed so that you may aspire to the merit which rises from the Sugata's words. Sugata's words. Now, of course, whatever is translated in English is not always exactly what is there in Tibetan, but in the Tibetan, what he's really saying is, if you listen to this pleasant, beautiful teachings taught by Sugata, means the Buddha. Buddha is called Sugata because he traveled from peace to peace. Su is bliss or peace. Gata means one who has gone into bliss. And that is another beautiful thing with this Buddhist teaching, is that it is a teaching which will, when you practice, it is peaceful. The path is peaceful, the fruit is peaceful. So you are moving from peace to peace, right? Any other mundane activities, the path may be rough and turbulent, and the fruit may also, for example, like somebody who engages, a lot in political activities, then their life is tough, fighting with everybody, competing with everybody, and then the fruit also is turbulent. It's not like that. In the Buddhist teaching, the path is peaceful, the fruit is peaceful. So therefore, the epithet, one epithet that is given to the Buddha is Sugata, one who has gone into the state of peace. And his teaching is said to be beautiful, pleasant, elegant, because it is good in the beginning, good in the middle, good in the end, good for the time being, good for the long run, good for yourself, good for others. There cannot be any word better than the teachings of the Buddha, right? In other words, he's saying that those people who are by nature good means those people who have done virtuous practice in the past. Because of that, today also you are worthy, you are suitable, you are fit to receive these teachings. So it's not just the king, but all of you should feel happy that number one, you have obtained this precious human life. Be very happy about that, rejoice that. Okay. And we'll be able to rejoice that only if we compare our life to an animal, to a snake, Imagine if you have obtained a life like that of a snake, what will you do then? Okay. And not only you have obtained this precious human life, but you also made this precious teaching. And by nature, you have this inclination to do good things. And the good thing is, I have seen the majority of the people in the world, the majority of the world population, I would really say they're basically people who are inclined to good things. But because of unfortunate situation, surrounding, they don't get that encouragement, they don't get that incentive, they don't get that support. So that's why it's important for us to do this practice. And through whose understanding, we can also influence and change the life of other people, right? Therefore, we are doubly lucky. One, we have this inclination to learn something, and then through learning, we also have the capacity and the opportunity to benefit many others. Many others. Once you get this wisdom, this pulse of wisdom, these are the most precious thing that you can share. In the Buddhist teaching, it is said that when really, really like learned and wise people meet, they don't, exchange material gifts. They exchange gifts of wisdom. So that's why in the Buddhist teaching also it is said, out of all the practice of giving Dharma teaching is the most important thing. Giving counseling or advice, helping people is the most important thing. So therefore, just like the king, you should consider yourself as extremely lucky. And then in the second verse, he says, for example, an image of the Sugata, if it is made of wood or whatever it be like, is worshipped by the wise man. Likewise, though this poem of mine lacks grace, do not despise it, since it is based upon a discussion of holy Dharma. So in the second verse, what he is saying is that as to the true spirit of the Buddha's teaching, you'll recall that Buddha taught about these four reliances. That means out of the four reliances, rely not on the name and the fame of the person, but rely on the teaching. When it comes to understand the teaching, rely on the meaning, not on the beauty of the word. That's what he's saying here. In terms of composition, in terms of the poetic beauty, there may be many others. This does not mean that his composition is not beautiful, but this, in the initial stage, all these Buddhist masters, they show their, humility, that I'm not a good composer, my poems are not good. That's exactly what Shantideva says in the beginning of Bodhisattva way of life. But by saying this, he's implying some other meaning. He's also saying that if you're somebody who's looking only for the beauty of the composition and the poem and the word and not in the meaning, then you are not the suitable follower of this teaching. But if you're looking for the meaning, then it is here. So indirectly, that is what he's saying, as Shantideva said. And then he gives the example by saying that, for example, with respect to the homage that you paid the image of the Buddha, it doesn't matter whether the image is made of wood or stone or gold or silver or diamond. And this is a very important point. For example, an image of the Buddha, if it be made of wood or whatever, stone or whatever, it will be like, it's worshipped by wise men. Worshipped by a wise man means a person who really knows the symbolic meaning of the Buddha. Then all these different kind of images made by different materials will be treated as same, signifying, representing the actual Buddha. But if you're not one with that knowledge, that learnedness, then in the case of ordinary person, an image made of gold will be respected more, you see. And His Holiness the Dalai Lama has repeatedly said this, Sometimes it is good that you have an altar, but sometimes you make it too ornate and elaborate, and you will prepare a Buddha made of gold and silver and all those things, and then you worry later on, thinking that my golden image may be stolen by the thief and taken by the burglars, and then you will get this sense of the belongingness, a kind of your property, not something holy and sacred to be paid homage. So therefore, here also, that's what he's saying, that pay attention to the meaning, not on the beauty of the word. Okay. I mean, if you're a true practitioner, then the image must be there in your mind. You should consider your body as a temple, and the image must be there. If you have that kind of, reflection, understanding, wherever you go, the temple is there. Wherever you go, the image is there. You see? Take the example of Milarepa. He moved from one cave to another cave, did not have anything, did not have any proper clothing, forget about images and altars, he didn't have anything. And in fact, one night in his empty cave, a thief came to steal, hoping to steal something. And that thief was groping in the darkness, and Milarepa was awake and meditating. And he found this thief trying to get something in that pitch black darkness. And he laughed and said, "What are you hoping to get anything in this pitch black darkness when I'm not able to see anything in the broad daylight?" Meaning that even in the broad daylight, he has nothing, you see. But this did not disqualify him as an inferior practitioner. He is treated as the king of practitioners. So this also, like for us ordinary people, we need some of these reminders. So therefore we have a statue and a stupa and a holy scripture. It's good. This is a reminder. But the most important thing is that gradually you should be able to become independent of depending on these external objects. Just like, leaving a boat, when you have crossed the ocean or water, you don't carry the boat behind you, right? So similar like that. So the real Dharma is the true cessation and true path leading to the true cessation, the nirvana, which must be cultivated within oneself. It is not there as an external decoration. Okay? So therefore, do not despise it, since it is based upon this discussion of the holy Dharma. Because this is called holy Dharma, because this path shows the way to achieve liberation and nirvana and enlightenment. It's very, very special. The uniqueness of the Buddha's teaching is, as I said, the main target, the main focus of Buddha's teaching is how to reduce the negative emotions, the internal negative emotions, and thereby how to achieve the long-lasting happiness in the form of nirvana and enlightenment. I'm not trying to despise any other teaching, but there are not many teachings which focuses pointedly on removing the negative emotions within oneself. So that's a very unique thing with the Buddha's teaching. So therefore, we should regard this sacredness in terms of its meaning, in terms of its nature, in terms of its special feature, and seeing this as a sublime method and means to achieve that highest state of Buddhahood, you should pay respect. Don't just bothered by the style and the composition. The third verse. However much of the great sages' words you may have listened to and may have even comprehended, still is not a white painted mansion made whiter by the midnight moon. Now this basically means that sometimes the Dharma proofs, people who are Dharma proof, as I said earlier. So, sometimes we might say that, oh, no, I don't have to listen to this teaching. I have listened to this many times before. This is indication of Dharma proof, right? Yes, you have listened many times, but what did you do? How much transformation did you bring about? Nothing. Yes, you listened, attended many teachings. But what is the indication that you brought about some, changes in your life? Nothing. During the time of, the Kadamba masters, the very senior Kadamba master, whenever he hears somebody giving a teaching, he used to go there. He was a very well-known teacher. And his attendant used to advise him that you are such a honored and, highly respected master. It does not fit well that you go and listen to, teachers who are much, much less, known and much, much inferior than you. And he would always say, don't say like this. I may not have heard anything which I have not heard before, but I learned something which I have not learned before. That's the thing, the same text, the same teaching. you know, depending upon your mood, depending upon your inclination, depending upon the, you know, the state of your awakening of the mind and awakening of your past lives, you know, karmic imprint, the same verse, you'll get different understanding and idea during different times. And that is based on my own experience also. The same text, when you read next time, oh, I did not, you know, get this idea. Oh, this is beautiful idea, you know. The same text which you read before, but second time or third time when you read, you get a special insight. Right? As I said already, you know, just like food, it's not enough to eat one time and say, I've eaten it. You know, if you're able to do that, then do the same with Dharma practice. It's okay, then it's agreeable. Oh, I've eaten the dal and you know, rice the day before, so I'm not going to eat it for the rest of my life. If you're really brave enough, then say that with your food also. If you're able to say that, then you have right to say the same thing with your spiritual practice also. But with the food, we don't get tired of eating the same food again and again. And with the Dharma practice, we'll say, oh, I've read this again. You know, I don't want to read. I want to start something new, something new, something new, something new. In Tibetan, we say aksar, aksar. I had difficulty finding the right translation. So it's something like loosely translated. It's like fickleness of mind, fickle-minded people keep on changing the subject, always looking for new, you know, new dharma, new text, a new wife, new husband, a new car, you know. They keep on changing, but they themselves never change. That's the problem. That's the problem. So these teachings are for changing oneself, transforming oneself. So therefore, he's saying that he, with respect, he tells the king that you may have listened and you may have even comprehended or understood the meaning. Still, it's not a white painted mansion made whiter by the midnight moon. That means like Taj Mahal. Taj Mahal is made of like white marbles. It's already white, very good. But on that already white Taj Mahal, when the reflection of the moon is reflected, it becomes even more beautiful, whiter, more elegant. So similarly, even if you have understood something, comprehended something, but if you refresh it, you know, and develop more penetrative insight, it will be much better. So therefore, you must listen to this. Okay, so white painted mansion, you know, it may be a chalk painted thing, or it may be a building made of marble, white marble, whatever, you know. It becomes doubly elegant and white when the reflection of the moon falls on that. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay, so I'll stop here. Ask some questions.
Hello. Thank you so much, Chenna. Now we're open for questions, and you can raise your hand. And those of you who are new here, you can raise your hand from going to participants icon, and I will spot you, and I'll send you the unmute request. Any questions? Or if you find it difficult, you can say, I have a question in the chat box, and I can help you ask your question. Yes. Natasha, any questions from our Russian friends? Okay, hi, Jackie. Jackie's here, Gishla, and I'm going to send her the unmute request. Okay.
Hello. Thank you for your teaching. It's nice to see you again. About Buddhist statues, what is the significance of Buddhist statue in an image? Do we see that the Buddha is in the image, or what is the significance of having
Thank you.
them?
Thank you for asking this question. I'll tell you a story. I had one Russian student, Israeli student, and she was very, very interested in, you know, the Buddha's teaching. So I gave her a few courses. That was many, many years back, and she used to write everything what I was saying, you know. But one day she came a little bit puzzled, and by saying that Geshe, today I'm not really like my mind is not a little bit perturbed. And I said, why? Because I saw the Tibetans, prostrating and paying homage to the Buddha statue. So for her, it was like idolatry, idol worshipping. Some religions discourage that, yeah. So then she said, why you do this? So your question is a little bit like that. Then I told her, as in the form of answer, I told her that now that you are in India and traveling, do you carry the photo of your parents or your brothers, sisters? And she said, yes, I carry. Then I said, you're stupid. That photo is not your father, mother, or brother, sister. Instead, she said, that I know, but with the help of this picture, I'm able to remember them. So it's like that. We are not saying that statue is Buddha, but we call it representation of the Buddha. As I already mentioned, for ordinary people, we need reminders. Like this monk's cloth, it's a reminder. The cloth itself is nothing holy. You can buy it in the market. The armies wear uniform, a reminder that they have a special duty to do. And even the people who serve in the restaurant, they also wear a uniform, to remind them what they are supposed to do. So it's like that. It's only to remember the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Okay.
So Natasha, you can ask your question. Natasha, we cannot hear you.
Sorry. Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Yes. We have a question from Dinara. She says, today we have so many teachings on Dharma online. How not to get lost in this sea of information and how to filter this information?
It's like saying that there are so many different dishes available in the market. How can I filter? Right? You eat whatever you like and not everything that is sold in the restaurant. So similarly, you don't have to run for every teaching. As I said right in the beginning, if you're thirsty, you need to drink water, not the whole ocean. Okay, so you need to make the choice depending upon whether you have time, and whether you have the inclination, and then which teachers you like to follow. Do that. You don't just keep on like running after everybody. Right, and that's why Natasha and Julia will remember during many of my talks in Russia also, I said, now you have invited me many times. I was here giving many teachings. And since there are many other teachers also coming, so I think it's better that you should start practicing, not just keep on inviting me all the time. I said, they will remember that. So therefore, yes, it is important if you have time to attend the teachings, especially if the teacher has that qualification and capacity to teach. I'm not saying that only I have the capacity, but unfortunately, there are people who can't teach properly. Okay, so you need to make that selection. Just like you choose your food, or choose your friend, things like that. You don't have to run after. You can't attend all the online teachings. There may be like hundreds and thousands of online teachings. Okay, you don't need to follow all this. I'm not able to follow even all the online teachings of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, I occasionally follow and try to understand what he has taught, right? So therefore, no need to run after every teaching, but when you really attend a teaching, then prepare yourself so that you are really able to, understand the meaning that is being taught and implement it in your life. Okay.
Geshe, thank you very much. And we have actually, I think, many questions, but I will ask maybe two more, which came earlier. The first one is how to help myself when my mind is in depressed state. And when I'm looking around and I understand that I can't do anything really good for other beings.
No, the best way to try to help others is first help yourself. Okay. So, for example, if you're getting a little bit depressed and things like that, then don't just isolate yourself. go with some reliable, good friends, go out for a walk and enjoy and take rest, take a good sleep, and do something that you really feel like doing. Even when your mind is not ready, don't force yourself to do Dharma practice and things like that if your mind is not really going towards that. Do something that delights your mind. Your mind is like monkey, Okay, so you need to first, make that monkey mind, do something that is enjoyable. And then gradually the mind will also develop this sensitivity to do other good things. So you need to be tactful. You need to be tactful. Okay.
Yes, Geshe-la, and what if, I understand that probably the second part of the question is that the person feels kind of helpless, seeing that she cannot help the others.
No, it is not, it is impossible not to be able to help others. So you need to rephrase this line. What you are saying is not being able to completely help that person. There's a difference between completely being able to help somebody or helping somebody. Help you can give. Even if you say a nice word, that is helping. That helps other person. Even if you invite somebody, for a food or lunch and make at least 2-3 hours cheerful, that is also helping. Okay. Then the next question is completely helping others, removing the negative emotions or removing even the poverty of that person. So in many cases, even the Buddha could not do. Buddha had came into this world, but still we are here suffering, you see. Therefore, the Buddha said, unless you make effort to remove the negative emotions by yourself, there's nothing much I can do. Unless you eat the food, I can't eat for you, right? So therefore, you need to see it from many levels. Think about those levels where you can do and where you have been doing, and appreciate that. We are ordinary person. We cannot help everybody. And there are some people, even when you help, they would like react negatively. Even those things are there. So, right?
Thank you. And the last question is, if I cannot practice in front of an altar, can I read sadhanas or mantras just when I walk in the street or when I'm in the transport, just like silently?
Absolutely. As I said, your real temple is your body, as I said already. So when you're traveling, your body is there. That's what I'm saying. Your mouth is there. You see, Dharma practice has to be done by body, speech, and mind, and not necessarily in a place, So your body, speech, and mind is there wherever you go. So you can practice. So that, in fact, is actually more important. Otherwise, sometimes people might think that to do Dharma practice is, that it should be done in front of a Buddha's image, an altar. So doing that, you look nice, you do some meditation. Then after the post-meditative session, during the post-meditative session, when you're not meditating, when you're in the marketplace, then people think this is the time when I can do anything that I like and let my mind run wild. No. So therefore, in Buddhism, we are encouraging people to do practice both during the meditation and also during the post-meditative session. And the practice during the post-meditative session is even more important. It's more challenging. Right?
Thank you.
Thanks, Natasha. So we have Amita Ji. Amita.
Yeah, namaste. Geshe-la, I wanted to know if grief is a negative emotion. We have so much of grief today, losing friends, losing relatives. So is deep grief negative, or is that?
No. Grief is just a human experience, not negative. But that again depends what kind of grieving that you are doing. You see, for example, if your enemy is flourishing and you grieve over that is negative. But if you lose your friends and relatives, during this pandemic or otherwise, and you feel very sad and grieve, that is not negative. It's not negative. But then the important thing is, even if it is not negative emotion, but you need to see, the value. What is the value of it? What's the benefit of it? That you need to see. It is, but by nature, that we'll feel sorry, we'll feel sad, grief will be there. But then, according to the Buddha's teaching, you need to see the usefulness or uselessness of, grieving or feeling sad or sorry for somebody who died. I mean, it's easier said than done, but you need to see that, you see. As I, used to say many times that the funny part with human beings is when we are living with those people, we don't live very nicely. When they die, then we yell and shout and cry and, feel sorry and grieve. It not much meaning, not much use. The important thing is when you are living together with your relatives, friends, or even other whoever, we must be nice, compassionate. And then we should have that understanding that anytime that person will go, so your mind is ready. And when that person goes, it's almost like going to some other parts of the world, And ordinary people, even when your relatives go to some distant part of the world, you cry, you feel sorry, but what is the use of that? Okay. And but the important thing is when you're living, you need to, live in such a way that you encourage that person to do good things, that you yourself do good things. And when that person departs and dies, then, you don't have to worry because he has been good, she has been good. So according to the Buddhist teaching, the law of karma is infallible and he or she will find the right path. And then as, somebody, who is loving to that person who now remained behind. So instead of just grieving and feeling sorry and sad and crying, do something constructive. Recite some of the mantras as we are doing right now, and also do some practically useful things, helping other people who are also undergoing similar kind of tragic situation, help them as much as you can. That really is a great dedication for that departed soul, and for you also. Then you will get that consolation, feeling that yes, for this person he passed away, but for this person I'm able to do something. Because if you know how to think, properly, then everybody is kind of our relative, right? The other day I was thinking that yes, it is very unfortunate so many people are dying during this pandemic. But it's not only during this pandemic, because in the news it's so much highlighted that we see so many people dying. But otherwise, if you read the world news, in a day in the world, millions of people are dying. Hunger, poverty, war, killing. And now recently they came up with a report that several, like 100,000 people die every year due to being overworked, long hours of working. so we need to accept that birth and death, these are part of human life. And that does not mean to say that you should die without any preparation. Of course, our job and task is to lead a healthy life, lead a meaningful life. Then despite our trying our best, if something unfortunate happens, then we have to accept it. And that's why I was thinking, we are lamenting so much about death of people, and how much we are lamenting over the death of hundreds and millions of other animals. Mercilessly mistreated and killed by human beings. Right? So you need to think from a little bit larger perspective. Okay.
Ishla, we have a question from Vivek Mitra.
Geshe.
Yeah.
My question is that what is the thing stop us for receptivity? Like while we listening someone, we try to always judge from his appearance and how he talking, the way of talking. So what is that thing inside?
Yeah, judge and judgment may be different. Judging is good, analyzing is good, but you judge and analyze what the person says As I already mentioned while explaining the four reliances, rely on the teaching and not the person. And then also rely on the meaning, not on the beauty of the word. Okay, so you're not looking for the model, actor or actress, something like that. So don't look at the how the person looks, and if it's a handsome, beautiful teacher, then you accept it. Otherwise, no. Of course, totally wrong. Totally wrong. And judge the teaching, but judge the teaching means the very reason we have this amazing human brain and intelligence is to be able to judge what is right and what is wrong with a fair mind, not judge according to your likes and dislikes. The problem is normally when something fits our own way of thinking, then we say, wow, the teaching is so good, the teacher is so good. When something doesn't fit your way of thinking, your way of life, then you say, the teaching is, he said this, it doesn't make any sense to me, things like that, So what you need to do is, neither you have to accept whatever the teacher says as 100% right, nor you should try to, draw the conclusion based on your likes and dislikes, but within the framework of unbiased reasoning, and scrutiny, and judge, use your common sense. How far this sounds true, how far this sounds useful in our daily life, things like that. So in that sense, judging is good, but not just right at the outset, saying, the teacher is not good, teaching is not good, things like that. Okay.
So Gishla, now we don't have any raised hands, but then there are several questions in the chat box. So Gishla, how many questions may I pose to you? Should
Two more. Two more.
Okay. So there's we have Sharmila Kaushik with us, and he or she is asking how to maintain daily practice.
Daily practice means as much as possible try to help others. If you cannot help, do not harm others. That's one daily practice. Another daily practice that I said earlier is find out those negative emotions within yourself. As I already mentioned, especially the predominant negative emotions. Recognize it as your enemy, number one, and try to distance yourself from that negative emotion like anger, jealousy, whatever it is. That is practice, the most important practice. Then, of course, if you want to do a formal practice, then you sit before a holy image and then meditation, all these things are there. You can read it in a book. But the real practice is seeing that one's life is impermanent. It can be gone anytime. So what is it that is truly meaningful? Think about it. So I would recommend such practices.
That's so Gishla. And we have Andre Pitanga asking, is it indispensable for lay practitioners to find a teacher? Is it sufficient, and can you make progress studying independently? That's the question.
This is like asking, can we become a professor or teacher without going to classes? Yes, there are one or two examples. People who mostly spend time in the library and become good scholars, independent scholars. So you will be able to develop some understanding, because these days there are like, again, without relying on a teacher means, I don't know what do you mean, Even if you don't rely on a teacher as a kind of person, but you will be reading the books by those teachers. So there is indirectly relying on their teacher. So are you saying that without listening to anybody, without reading any books, just by oneself trying to explore? I cannot say that you cannot do that, but you can do, but it will be a tremendous amount of work to find the direction, you see. in the Buddhist text, it says that even in this life, if you want to, learn carpentry and become a good carpenter, you need to rely on a carpenter teacher. Here we are talking about things that we can actually see, seeable things. There also you need a teacher. And if that is the case, then what need is there to talk about the need of a teacher for traveling into unknown place called future lives, afterlives. So that is what is being explained in the text. So in other words, what I'm saying is, what is being taught by those teachers, especially experienced teacher, is that based on his many years of study and learning and practice, he has that thing called, I can call it that something like refined gold or distilled Dharma. These days I myself is collecting some distilled Dharma words for my own personal inspiration. I opened a new file and I call it distilled Dharma, because some of this, teachings are much more impactful. So I just collect it and then type it in the computer and putting it there. So something like that. So therefore, I think generally speaking, it's really, you can get some idea, but without a proper teacher, it is impossible to find the right path. It's really like saying that, can I travel from this place to other place without, consulting a airline or without consulting a tour guide, Can I do that from here to from Delhi to New York without consulting anybody? Can I go there? How will you go if you have no sense of direction? If you just keep on traveling, you might reach everywhere, So, yeah, something like that.
That's so. Thank you so much. And that was the last question for today. And with this, we end the session, but not without thanking you. Geshe, how can we ever thank you enough? And there's so many people sending private messages to me saying, so happy to have Geshe back. So I wanted to make sure that the messages are sent to you. Geshe, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And maybe request you to please end with the mantra recitation.
Yes. So the next mantra is Kyonji Magwe Kundoka Zosanji Ulaji Tuji Chinji Dolasi Chere Sigla Sowa de Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. We recite this 100 times. Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Through the practice of this virtue, may I actualize the state of Avalokiteshvara, the deity of compassion. And similarly, may I be able to help other sentient beings also achieve that state of Avalokiteshvara. Avalokiteshvara is the deity of compassion. And in the Mahayana practice, the most important heart practice, the development of compassion. And the Buddha said, if you have one practice, you have all the practices. And that practice is practice of cultivation of compassion. Okay, thank you.